Hello, I'm Dominiece Clifton, the founder of Move and Still, and today I'm going to be sharing a quick 15-minute video that explains the top 5 best practices for workplace organizations to reduce stress and burnout. So let's go ahead and jump in. So today we're going to look at the top 5 best practices to decrease workplace stress, burnout, and secondary trauma so that you can really empower your staff as a leader and also help to increase staff morale. So I want to start by giving a little bit of a background about Move and Still and the mission of our organization. So Move and Still offers trauma-informed wellness solutions to youth and community-serving organizations to really focus on reducing the impacts of secondary trauma. And we're also aiming to promote a culture of well-being, and that requires a major shift. So we support organizations in offering holistic stress management, mindfulness, and mental health services that really work to uplift their leadership, staff, and the youth and communities they serve. And so our approach is a little bit different from some other organizations because we are really focused on a holistic approach and supporting every aspect of the organization. And at the bottom, these are just some of the partners that we've been able to partner with to date, including Baltimore City Parks and Recs, the Baltimore Design School, the Well, Collectively, the Community Assistance Network, and Propel. So first, I'd like to start by just identifying some of the signs of stress, burnout, and secondary trauma in the workplace, because oftentimes as leaders, we don't always know when we as individuals or our employees are struggling. So here are some of the things that you might notice in your employees, and especially if these things are occurring consistently, it's an indicator of some deeper issues that need to be addressed. So first, you're going to notice low momentum in your staff. And so if you see that your staff is dragging, or maybe they have a really hard time getting started or completing things, this is an indication of low momentum. Low energy is another key indicator of stress, burnout, and secondary trauma. And so if your employees are really struggling to show up consistently, to be productive consistently, or to really be present in their lives, whether it's personal or professional, this is an indicator, again, of low energy and an indicator of stress and burnout. Unhealthy coping. So using substances or foods such as, overeating, maybe turning to drugs or alcohol to really numb the pain, to help yourself to feel better, or as an employee to make yourself feel better and to really just focus on getting through the day after you leave work. These are all signs of unhealthy ways that you might be dealing with the impacts of stress and burnout. A couple of other key indicators are attendance issues. So if you have employees that are frequently late, or they struggle to make it into the office at all, or the organization at all, this is an indicator of some bigger challenges. Maybe if you notice that your employees are feeling overwhelmed consistently. So no matter what they do, it seems like they can't get a grip or can't get on top of their to-do list or their assignments and their responsibilities. Overwhelm is an indication of too many things going on and also just being at the place of stress and burnout. And then the last one that shows up frequently is having a negative attitude. So if you have an employee that's constantly negative towards their colleagues or supervisors, or maybe if you're working in a school, you might see this employee being really negative towards students or the community that they serve. This is an indicator, again, of stress and burnout. And so maybe pause for a second and think about your team, your staff, the employees that you work with, and how many of these things you are seeing showing up on a consistent basis. That's going to be an indicator of where you need to focus and where the issues really lie. So I want to give you some facts. So this is focused on U.S. workplace stress, and it really is an epidemic. Like there's a big issue at hand here for us to deal with and address. So 83% of U.S. workers suffer from work-related stress, and 25% of those 83 say that their job is the number one stressor in their lives. Okay, more than 50% of workers are not engaged at work. And as a result of this, there's a lack of productivity. And so think about the amount of work that's not getting done on a consistent basis if half your staff or half your team is not able to be engaged and productive at work. 44% of U.S. Teachers in grades K through 12 said that they are often feeling burned out at work. And I want to just pause for a second because 44% is a high number. That's almost half of the workplace when it comes to education that's showing up every day feeling extremely burned out. And then the last statistic is that 80% of employees who work from home experience who work from home full-time experience burnout. And so even though we've shifted and we're living in a digital age post-COVID where a lot of folks are working from home, and that might seem more relaxing, what we're actually finding is that higher numbers of people are dealing with burnout, even though they're working remotely. And we're going to look at that. And so now we're going to jump into our top 5 best practices. Number 1 is make well-being a collaborative effort throughout your organization. And so what this means is that it should really be everyone's responsibility to communicate the importance of well-being and also to support the programs that are offered by your school or your organization. So in addition, your employees must feel like they're part of the process, right? So many programs fail because administrators, leaders, supervisors, they often neglect to get buy-in from the employees. And one way that you get buy-in from the employees is feedback. And so you have to be open to seeking feedback from your employees to really understand what their needs are, to understand where they are struggling so that you can effectively manage those needs. Another thing is that the culture of a company is really driven by the collective efforts of all employees. And so again, if this is just a top-down approach where decision makers are making decisions on behalf of everyone, but not stopping to get their input, there's a disconnect, and oftentimes programs are going to fall through because people are not bought into them. The second best practice is you must have strong administrative support because it's really vital for the success of the program. So the U.S. corporate market wellness market size was estimated at $23.7 billion in 2022, and it's expanding. It's projected to reach $34.27 billion by 2030, right? So workplace wellness is growing. Large organizations spend an average of about $10.5 million every year on workplace wellness. But the truth is that many workplace wellness programs are failing. Failing the people that they are intended to serve. And so the key for a wellness organization to succeed is that it really needs buy-in from leadership and administration. So this can't be something that you pass off to their employees and give them to figure it out. Supervisors, administrators, leaders must really be bought into the process. Organizations that have strong leadership support had far greater participation, and they had more employees who reported at least one change in behavior over time. The third best practice is you must model workplace boundaries. So as a leader, modeling for your staff best practices and healthy behavior is extremely important. So COVID-19 has really blurred the lines when it comes to work-life boundaries. Many people are working from home, and so the boundaries have become a lot murkier than they used to be when you worked a traditional 9 to 5, went to the office, and then left the office to go back home. In addition to graying the lines around workplace boundaries, the impact of COVID-19 has also heightened workplace insecurities. We're seeing layoffs happen across the nation in large numbers. And so people are nervous about losing their jobs. And so they're overcompensating to show up to ensure that they continue to have a job. So to combat this, leadership must really work to model healthy wellness practices. So as a leader, you must refrain from sending emails during out of work time hours, because what's going to happen is that your staff is going to feel more compelled to answer that email. There's a greater sense of urgency around it if the email comes in after hours. Now, unless there is an emergency, there's really no need to be sending emails after hours and then putting the pressure on your staff to respond right away. You have to honor and give your staff some time to turn off. Leaders must also model a culture of well-being by refraining from working during off time or holidays, as this again really models and demonstrates a healthy workplace boundary for yourself. And then that's going to show your employees that this is possible for them. So for leaders who are always on, they're going to build teams who are always on and who don't value spending time with their family or their loved ones and doing things outside of work. And so again, as a leader, it's really, really important for you to model healthy workplace boundaries, whether it's after hours or on holidays and time off, so that your team also feels empowered to do the same. The fourth best practice is to focus on the body. So stress and trauma are stored in the body. So oftentimes organizations will offer benefits packages that include talk therapy and focus on mental health practices. And while mental health practices such as therapy are extremely important, it's not enough if it's practiced alone. So mental health is mental health to really work on healing and reducing stress is a both and situation, right? So what that means is that as a leader of your organization, you must really focus on providing support to your staff that helps them to release stress and trauma from the body. Now, whether you opt for live wellness classes that are held within your organization, or if you and your team is working remotely, you have someone come in on Zoom or come in digitally to offer practices, or maybe you offer a digital app option, such as an app to empower your employees. Whatever way works best for you, you have to ensure that your employees are able to release the stress, the trauma that they're holding in their bodies on a consistent basis. And the key here is that a consistent wellness practice is key, because all of us are experiencing trauma, all of us are experiencing stress on an ongoing basis. And so offering a program where you're offering yoga maybe once a month or, every quarter, that's not enough, because it doesn't deal with the issues that your employees and your team is facing every day. The last best practice is to really focus on creating a culture of well-being. There's a heavy emphasis on culture here. And so for employees to truly reap the benefits of a wellness program and to really focus on implementing sustainable lifestyle changes, wellness must be infused in all aspects of the workplace. And so what this means is that you have to think about where you can infuse wellness into every part of the workday. So some examples include incorporating wellness practices into team meetings, holding space during meetings and presentations, right? Like incorporating things into presentations, which help to facilitate pauses for your team. And so this might include holding space for a mindful moment or mindfulness activities, or starting a training off or professional development off with a little bit of breath work. Like, these are the best practices that are going to help your employees to release the stress that they're holding and really be present for whatever they are showing up for, whether it's a meeting, whether it's, them teaching class. This really empowers them to show up and be fully present. You can also think about offering lunch and learns, where someone comes in on a specific topic that your team is struggling around when it comes to wellness, and they are able to provide expertise and insight on that specific topic. And there are many other types of wellness programs, well-being programs that you can think about. But again, consistency is key here when you're thinking about creating a culture of well-being. So that concludes the top 5 practices. So for those of you who are working remotely, whether it's hybrid or full-time, you might feel like many of the things that I shared today don't apply to you and your team because they're working remotely. But I want to go back to that 86% of remote workers that are feeling burned out, even though they're working from home full-time. And here's another statistic that I want to share. Up to 70% of remote workers feel they don't have the emotional support that they need from their employer, or they don't have healthy strategies to really deal with the burnout issues that they're facing. Another thing that they state is that their employees are not doing enough to prevent or alleviate burnout. So that's a really big number when you think about your team, especially if you're working from home or working remotely. Up to 70% of them are feeling like they are not being supported in their struggles. So here are some ways that we might partner when it comes to how Move and Still supports organizations. And I want to say that we work with an organization to understand your needs better, to really customize a package. So this is a very high level overview. Number one, we focus on offering workplace wellness programs for employees and youth. So we really aim to partner with schools and organizations that are really dedicated to creating a culture of well-being, understanding that change takes time and this is not an overnight process. We support organizations in offering holistic stress management practices, mindfulness practices, and mental health services that uplift the leadership, the staff, and the youth and communities that they serve. In addition, we also offer remote or hybrid wellness programs. So again, post-pandemic, a lot of folks are working from home and the lines have become extremely blurred between work and home. And as a result, we know that remote workers are experiencing more burnout. And so it's really time for employees to focus on how they are supporting their team's well-being at home. And so we help you with this by offering trainings and digital sessions with live instructors to help you combat some of the burnout and the stress that you're seeing amongst your teams. The other thing that we offer is workshops and trainings. So we offer trauma-informed mindfulness workshops and trainings to support staff professional development days, youth programs, as well as community events. So here are some of the results that we've seen with past partners. 86% of our workshop participants indicated being less stressed after taking our workshop. I want to note here that we don't just provide training and professional development. We also offer wellness movement sessions that really focus on helping to release stress, trauma from the body. And so because of that, because we merge the two and help to release stress and trauma from the body and focus on the body, after our workshops, 80% of our participants indicated feeling less stressed. 100% of participants felt more equipped to handle stress in their daily life following our workshops, and they gained transferable skills that they could use to manage stress more consistently. And then the final thing I'll share is a testimonial from a past client. So Baltimore Design School said Move and Still's experience was impactful for students and their families at the Baltimore Design School. She was humble, and through sharing her challenges and experiences throughout her life, she was approachable and relatable. We hope that this is just the beginning of a fruitful relationship. And so we really focus on customizing our program offerings to really meet the needs of the partners and the communities that they serve. Thank you so much for tuning into today's webinar. I hope that this was helpful and insightful for you. I hope that you were able to recognize some of the ways that you or your team might be struggling and exhibiting signs of stress and burnout or secondary trauma. And as a next step, to learn more about our services and to schedule a discovery call so we can find out what your challenges are and how we might best support you, I invite you to visit our website at www.movexstill.com so that we can schedule a time to connect. Thank you.